Hey there, welcome back to my channel and welcome to the horror show part 2. And that is of Diddy's week 1 trial. And in this video, as I had shared in the previous video that I dropped earlier today, if you have not had an opportunity to take a watch see at that, I hope that you will do so. The last video for part 1 covered a lot of the biggest moments and certain elements about testimony that was taken from this past week with Cassie Ventura and Dawn Richards from the group Danity Kane, as well as also a couple of male escorts and a FBI agent who was part of the raid in ascertaining some of the stuff and sharing some of the things that were found in the hotel room as well. And I do believe he was also part of the arrest portion of it as well. So we are getting into, as I shared, that there will be multiple parts to this saga, and this will be part 2 with some additional details that will go into different perspectives or more enhanced perspectives of some of the things that was covered, and some additional information naturally that may not have been covered in part 1. So I do hope that you are doing well today and have got yourself all prayed up. There is a lot that took place in the first week if you have been following this trial. And we all know that, at the end of the day, Diddy is now fighting for his life through all these allegations that has been brought upon him. That brings us to the trial time at this point, which quite frankly has come pretty quickly. So with that, let's go ahead and go dive into part 2. Again, as trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning. I will be changing probably some verbiage throughout, maybe have to spell out some words to keep it YouTube friendly, but I will also leave the information as to where the sharings have come from down in the description area if you choose to want to go out and review it yourself as well. You are more than welcome to. So let's go ahead and get into part 2, shall we? All right, so part 2 is coming to us by way of probably a couple of areas, but we'll initially start off with Yahoo News and the Griot. So let's go ahead and get into it. This sharing provides that Cassie shown stills from freak-offs during the second day in court, and where she makes the statement, I cannot believe, or I can't believe I actually dealt with that. So as I shared in part 1, if you hadn't had an opportunity to take a watch see of that, there was information that was shared that stills and some video was actually shown obviously in court and was used in the questioning and the re-questioning of Cassie and probably some of the other witnesses as well. So we're going to go into a little bit more information in regards and perspective regards to that element. The sharing further says that R&B singer Cassie returned to court in the high-profile S trafficking case against Diddy with more allegations of abuse. Again, warning, the story does contain graphic descriptions of physical and S violence. Now, singer and model Cassandra Cassie Ventura returned from a second day of questioning on the witness stand as the government's highest profile witness in its federal S trafficking case against Sean Diddy Combs. Now, Wednesday, May 14th, a visibly less emotional Ventura dressed in a gray turtleneck dress under a black coat detailed more allegations of physical abuse, S assault, and claims of potential blackmail. Now, NBC News had reported this at that time. She also testified how she would get scared during the 55-year-old disgraced rap mogul's notorious DRUG-fueled S parties dubbed freak-offs, which we have famously have known and been made aware of what those particulars are over the last year plus. Now, Sean would put his hands on me. He would push me down, kick me, the 30-year-old told the courtroom, adding, there were other times if we were having a bad time or if I was scared of him, uncomfortable, typically I would leave and go out of the back of the hotel. When asked by prosecutors how often Combs would become violent and hurt her during the freak-offs, per NBC News, she replied, too often. His violence toward her wasn't limited to just freak-offs. In addition to the 2016 security footage that shows Combs throwing Ventura around a hotel hallway being played in court on Wednesday, she described another instance 3 years prior that led to her being taken to a plastic surgeon to treat her face. Now, as we know, that 2016 security footage of that hotel from the Intercontinental was one that was played pretty much worldwide, internationally, and nationally on CNN that one fateful Sunday evening. Now, Sean came in. I was asleep. He was trying to attack me. We went into the master bedroom. My friends were jumping on his back and trying to stop him, she testified. At some point, she alleged Combs threw her onto the bed frame and she cut her eyebrow, on the bed's corner. Despite having a significant gash, she didn't go to the emergency room. Instead, she testified that Combs had security take her to a plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills. Now, according to her, in the aftermath, she had texted him a photo of her injury and said, "So you can remember," to which he replied, "You don't know when to stop. You have pushed it too far." Interesting. "Just say sorry. I don't know why I deserve that. You could care less if I was okay," she responded. She also testified that Combs' staff was present during multiple instances of the abuse, including a driver's assistant and security guards, CBS News had reported. Now, the New York Post reported that stills from a freak-off were presented to the jury, causing visible reactions from at least a few. While reviewing the stills, Ventura identified herself and the male escorts. During Wednesday's testimony, the R&B singer picked up where she left off during her first day in court on Tuesday, when she revealed what it was really like during their roughly 10-year-long relationship, which began when she was 19. She described how she was too naive and too inexperienced when she first began dating him. She also testified that she only agreed to the freak-offs because she felt pressured and was eager to gain his approval. She admitted that she didn't enjoy any aspect of the parties. Now, while in court on Wednesday, the R&B singer also testified that the parties would leave her with UTIs, mouth sores from reported OS, and you know what OS is, right? And stomach issues. The New York Post reported, according to her, she would be made to participate even with the UTIs. "It was really painful for a long time," she said, per NBC. "I can't believe I actually dealt with that. It was really painful for a long time." And again, she repeated, "I cannot believe I dealt with that." Now, the next portion here that we're going to run into is actually a sharing from eOnline. Now, this details basically the fact that she went through some of this alleged abuse, as well as alleged R-ing during the time where she was in connection with her now husband, Alex Fine. So let's go ahead and get into that. It says Cassie Ventura says husband Alex Fine punched the wall after alleged Sean Diddy Combs R-ing. All right. So Cassie Ventura told jurors and her ex Sean Diddy Combs' trafficking trial how her now husband Alex Fine reacted when she disclosed her alleged R by the music mogul. Content warning: the story does contain details of alleged assault. Now, Cassie Ventura is revealing how her relationship with Sean Diddy Combs affected those closest to her, which is a question that a lot of us particularly do have, especially the fact that we know that she had family members as well as her husband that was there for the listening for the majority of the trial and testimonies that occurred during this past week. I could only imagine how much it took to keep those individuals intact as they listened to the alleged abuse that Cassie detailed pretty emotionally and pretty thoroughly on the stand. Says, amid her days-long testimony in Combs' trafficking trial, the singer told the court how her now husband Alex Fine had reacted upon learning she had allegedly been R-ed by the disgraced music mogul in 2018. Now, during cross-examination by Combs' defense attorneys, Ventura, 38, had testified that she received a FaceTime call from Fine, 32, while having relations with Combs, according to an NBC News reporter who was inside the New York City courtroom May 16. When she later told Fine, with whom she now shares 2 daughters and is expecting a 3rd baby, that Combs had actually R-ed her, she said he reacted by punching a wall. Days earlier, Ventura testified about the night of the alleged assault, which she said occurred after she had gone to dinner with Combs in Malibu for a closure conversation following their decade-long relationship. While she described her ex as really nice and playful during the outing, she said things changed dramatically after he took her home later that evening. "I went inside. He came in and R-ed me on the living room floor," she said on the stand May 14th per NBC News. "I remember crying and saying no. It was fast. His eyes were black and he wasn't himself." Now, Ventura went on to accuse Combs of physical and sexual abuse in a civil lawsuit filed in November 2023. And the two parties have reached an out-of-court settlement within 24 hours, which we all famously saw as well, which Ventura later revealed had involved a $20 million payout from Combs. As she told the jurors in the federal case, "I want to be compensated for the time and the pain." Now, Combs has denied Ventura's allegations and has pled not guilty to all 5 charges in his federal case. More details in regards to the accusation of DRUGS's and Freakoff's baby oil. It says Cassie Ventura shoots down the accusation of DRUGS in the Freakoff baby oil, because that was a question and some conversation that has been kind of brought up. And were those baby oils, to her knowledge anyways, actually spiked in any way? So basically, she says there were no DRUGS's mixed into the baby oil that Sean Diddy Combs liked to use during the Freakoffs, Cassie Ventura testified on May 15th. A lawsuit had filed against Combs in October 2024 alleged that he had laced the oil with GHB or rolifenol, that's how you say that, which is often referred to as, I'm close on that, the Date-R drug. Now, Cassie Ventura details Sean Diddy Combs' DRUG use. Under defense cross-examination, May 15th, Ventura testified that Combs would get jealous and have an explosive reaction when she took DRGS's with other friends and not with him. Interesting. She said that Combs once overdosed on painkillers, which I shared in part 1. If you haven't had an opportunity to take a look at that video, hope that you will. And when asked by the defense attorney, Anna Estevilla, if her ex's mood swings were connected to those pills, Ventura said that was a part. Asked earlier in the day if she thought Combs was a DRUG addict, she said, "I would say he was an addict." And her answer was yes when asked if Combs became angry or volatile when he was going through withdrawal. She says, "I'm not a doctor, but coming off of certain pills, he would be pretty irritated." Now, judge apparently had called for recess amid Cassie Ventura's testimony at Sean Diddy Combs' trial. Further continues on with saying that while Ventura was in the witness box on May 15, Judge Aaron Subramanian, there you go, called a recess while Combs' defense began showing explicit emails and text messages during cross-examination. Now, there has been a lot of conversation that's been had about these said conversations and text messages that was being shown, because naturally the defense wants to show a certain perspective that it may or may not have been, accurate, right? Or not accurate fully in its span of things. So here we go. When defense counsel Estevilla presented Ventura with the actually explicit messages between the former couple from 2009 to argue that their relationship was consensual, because that's a big conversation being had and has been being had since the civil lawsuit dropped. The prosecution had called an objection, which the judge had sustained. Now, following the objection, Ventura was seen whispering to the judge, with the official abruptly calling for a 10-minute break. A heated debate between prosecution and defense erupted before the jury entered the courtroom when lead defense attorney Mark Agnifilio argued that more text should be shown in the court. The judge said some messages violated federal evidence rules. However, a number of them were admitted into evidence in which Combs and Ventura spoke in graphic detail about their lives. Now, Cassie Ventura says that she participated in hundreds of freak-offs with Sean Diddy Combs. Ventura testified May 15th that while it's impossible to know how many freak-offs she took part in with Combs, she said it was hundreds. She alleged that her ex had filmed the performances to use as blackmail against her. She said she told her that he was going to release them and put her career in jeopardy. Now, mind you, she is completely and utterly throughout this relationship dependent on Diddy and the promises that were made for her career. Because as we know, she was an R&B star, or at least an R&B singer. Maybe, I don't know, star may be relative depending on your interest level of her music. But one of the questions that has come up is that why she hadn't put out more music, because she seemed to be presented so much as, the next upcoming big thing. And, quite a few of us do remember one famous video, which really, I think, came out before all of this, began, was it With You? I think it's called. Can't remember now. making a move, something like that. You all remember what I'm talking about. But they came out in 2006. So, it did seem like, okay, we're seeing maybe the next starlet to come about. And so, therefore, him having that type of ownership and control over her, not only her life and her whereabouts and things that she was doing, was also about what she could do and how she could make money or become that star that she, I'm sure, had some type of deal signed with him. She just didn't know what really deal maybe that she was actually getting into, allegedly. But yeah, that was something that was also held over her head, according to this testimony. She would further said he would mention them when he was upset about something. It was just a pretty common thing, Ventura said. I feared for my career. I feared for my family. Just embarrassing, all of it. It's horrible and disgusting, and no one should do that to anyone. And yeah, I mean, quite frankly, I cannot imagine the amount of embarrassment that it is to actually sit here on a stand for so many people to now have a front row seat to the levels of actions, we'll just say, that have taken place. I just could not even imagine. I just could not even imagine. All right. So next up, Sean Diddy Combs allegedly told Cassie Ventura that she couldn't leave him during the hotel attack. Now, Ventura, taking the stand for the second day as a witness, recounted on that 2016 hotel attack that was caught on surveillance footage and shared by CNN in May of 2024. May I say internationally and nationally? Where basically she testified that Combs threw a vase at her after attempting to leave the Intercontinental Hotel before physically assaulting her, which a lot of us got to see. I just remember it coming towards me, Ventura said of the vase while on the stand May 14th. It hit the wall. I didn't get hit. He was yelling at me. He threw it at me. I don't remember exactly his words. I'm sure he was calling me something other than my name. Yeah, I would assume that as well. However, she said that Combs told her that I wasn't going to leave him and that I couldn't. Shortly after the hotel attack, Ventura said she had to attend the premiere of her film, The Perfect Match, with bruises on her face and body alongside Combs, along with having to apply heavy makeup to cover up her black eye and fat lip. She had added, I had several bruises on my legs, so I changed my outfit. Cassie Ventura describes the mess of the oil and bodily fluids. And yeah, after the freak-offs, and bodily fluids requires both blood and the other. After a freak-off, there would be a baby oil all over the hotel room. Could you imagine having to be the person to clean up that mess? Ventura had testified, and if Combs had instructed someone to number one on her, okay, there might be that on the sheets. And if she was on her time of the month at that time, Ventura said that there could be, blood on the sheets and furniture as well. Okay. So now being number one on made her feel humiliated, Ventura said, and it was disgusting. It was too much. I choked. I didn't want to be doing that. I was in a position I couldn't easily get out of. It was a turn on for him. So what happened? Ventura said. Asked by prosecutor Emily A. Johnson why she didn't refuse Combs' directions in these cases, she replied, I thought it was obvious that I didn't want to do it. I guess the question would be, was he listening? Did he care? And I guess as it continued on, we may know our answer. Now, Sean Diddy Combs wanted baby oil glistening during the freak-off, says Cassie Ventura. Ventura testified May 13th that Combs directed her and other freak-off participants to cover themselves in baby oil. Sean wanted it heated and he wanted it to be glistening, she said in court, so we applied every 5 minutes. During one such freak-off at the Montage Beverly Hills, Ventura said Combs asked her to get into an inflatable pool filled with baby oil while she was wearing clothes. She didn't want to, but if it was something Combs wanted to happen, that was going to happen, she continued. We used 10 bottles of baby oil, regular size. My goodness. You remember when it was kind of divulged around the world that there was numerous amounts of bottles of baby oil, cases even. We saw memes for days in regards to this. And I'm just thinking, like, just a little bit of baby oil could have you slipping and sliding all over the place. I mean, the amount of danger that's associated also, which I guess maybe allegedly could be part of the thrill. But I'm just thinking that the fact that you were able to make it out of these without broken limbs and other things happening, to your physical, that was that of being thrown around just from the slipperiness of the fluids around is it's just astonishing to me. And then imagining the cleaning crew coming in after the fact and having to take care of that, all things alleged. Insane. Okay. Next up, Cassie Ventura says hiring for freak offs became a job for her. Now, this is where some people have some questions in regards to maybe any kind of liability that she may have in associated with these allegations. My guess is that there probably was some conversation naturally about this, since it's being provided here in testimony. And we'll get into that here in just a second. But I also look at the fact of immunity. Was that all part of that, clause in for her testifying, if that would have been a part of it, because then people can ask, many things can be the same and true at the same time, right? You can be a victim of something and also a perpetrator in these types of situations. Often I say you can't be a victim perpetrator in certain things, like, in that sense, you cannot be the person who starts an issue and then turn around and because you get the bad end of the stick of it, then consider yourself a victim. That's a different situation entirely. Something to this extent would be, potentially being a victim first, potentially, and then turning into now being made to feel or coerced into feel that you had to do certain things because you had no choice. All allegations, of course, are, definitely been shared about that in regards to that here in the testimony for this week. So that is something that is out there as well for conversation purposes. Now, Ventura told prosecutors May 13th that during the first year of her decade-long relationship with Combs, he had proposed the introduction of voyeurism into their relationship. It first began with her hiring an escort and setting up so that she could perform for Combs, who would watch her with another person. So definitely an escalation and elevation of things. And usually stuff of this kind of nature, deviousness of certain natures, usually starts that way, right? It starts pretty mild in the beginning, and the next thing you know, you're slipping and sliding over the place, and an uncontrollable bouts of whatever that's going on. Eventually, she said, orchestrating S performances Combs called freak-offs, which could last anywhere from 36 hours to 4 days. Like, I'm just thinking, who has time for all of this? Became a job for her. I had the contacts to set it up in the hotel room and all of that. She recalled at the beginning, Sean set it up. And I also would like to know, not only does who has time for all of this, when was recording sessions happening for the music that was supposed to be taking place? And how were you managing to even get to movies in order to do what you need to do for rehearsals? I mean, how was anything else happening outside of this situation? All things alleged. Now, Ventura said that her stomach had churned when he proposed this experience, of course, because then it becomes a visual record that can be used over and over again, shown over and over again. She said, I didn't have a concept of how that would be a turn on, but I accepted the responsibility. She said, I was confused, nervous, but also loved him very much and wanted to make him happy. It wasn't something that I wanted to be doing, especially as regularly as it became. But again, I was in love and I wanted to make him happy. She admitted at some point I felt it that I didn't have much of a choice. Yep. Now, Cassie Ventura alleges violent arguments with Sean Diddy Combs led to physical ABUSC and dragging, which we have heard different elements of that. Ventura, who dated Combs on and off from 2007 to 2018, said that he was frequently violent towards her during their relationship. Yes, they were violent arguments, usually resulted in physical ABUSC and dragging, different things, she testifies to jurors. He would mash my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me. She said that her injuries were often visible, adding, I would get knots on my forehead, black eyes, red eyes, bruises all over my body. Now, the defense wanted the pregnant Cassie Ventura seated before jury to avoid sympathy. Well, I can only imagine, watching everybody sitting in the room, probably a packed courtroom, and then a hush comes over in a certain eerie kind of way as she walks in with this huge pregnant belly, getting ready to pop at any moment now at this point, and just trying to, ascertain the things that you're being told and the things that you are hearing, and squaring that with what you are seeing right now. That has to be a mind wazoo. I'll just say that. But you know what I'm referencing. It just has to be. The senses. It just, what on earth, are we really doing here? Yeah, let's go ahead and continue. Now, with Ventura ready to take the stand after male escort Daniel Phillip, which was another witness, May 13th, Combs' defense requested that she had to be seated in the witness box before the jury enters, since she is 8 months pregnant, right? Because as that walk up to the box, I'm sure it seemed and sounded and felt like, sounded in silence and felt like it was like hours, and just each step, an opportunity to just reflect on what you already have heard and what you're going to probably hear. And then seeing this young lady who is now a married woman with children, her husband, her family are here to witness and watch all of this and hear all of this. And then not only that, her baby to be as well. And I can only imagine the amount of stress and tension that also can come from testifying and being in that kind of an environment of testifying and being pregnant as well, especially as pregnant as she is. So, as it further says, because I think there is a prejudicial quality, defense attorney Mark Agnofilia told the judge, pregnancy is beautiful and wonderful. It is also a source of potential sympathy. What do you think? But I guess he's just doing his job, right? Now, Ventura was ultimately brought in after the jury was seated, indicating that his defense team lost that motion. Continuing on, male escort says he could hear Sean Diddy Combs, actually Asaulting Cassie. When Ventura didn't join Combs right when he called her on one occasion, Phillip testified May 12th that Combs threw a liquor bottle in her direction, then grabbed her by her hair and dragged her into the bedroom. She was screaming, Phillip said, and from the next room, what I heard sounded like him slapping her. Phillip said he heard Combs say, I tell you to come here, you come here now, not later. What seems to be running through my mind is when she first got with him, she's 19 years old. And I'm just curious, how old is his daughters now? And I'm thinking of the fact that, again, as I shared in my perspective in part one, how you don't see the humanity in somebody, how you can look at this individual and you have children that are around her age, getting to her age, at her age right now, as we're listening to this foolishness. And how you just don't see that, how you can't see past that this is someone's child. All things alleged, right? Phillip said he was terrified and did not intervene. Wow. So another grown man in the presence of didn't intervene either. Was terrified of another man. He further testified that he overheard what sounded like Combs assaulting Ventura on a separate occasion at the Essex Hotel or Essex House Hotel in New York. Definitely want to keep names of all these hotels. Not staying at neither one of them. I heard her yelling, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Someone was being slapped around and slammed around the room, Phillip said, and I looked around the corner and I saw Mr. Combs walk out of the hotel altogether without clothes. He might have had a towel on. Ventura came out of the room and jumped into Phillip's lap, he testified. She basically tried to convince him that it's okay and I'll be okay, Phillip continued. And I said, it's not okay and you need to get help. I tried to explain to her that she was in real danger if she stayed with him, Phillip said. That must have been riveting testimony. Asked by prosecutor Maureen Comey why he didn't call the police, Phillip testified that he thought of Combs as someone with unlimited power, and chances are, even if I did go to the police, that I might still end up losing my life. And that is a reoccurring theme that we hear quite often in regards to people who have shared their experiences in being in the presence of Diddy. We've heard lots of accounts of these things. I guess we'll say all things alleged at this point, but we've heard many reminiscences of that same thing, being fearful of their own life, knowing or feeling or hearing of things that have happened maybe to others allegedly, and then feeling that they do not want to be in that same place themselves. Escort says Cassie Ventura had paid for S while Sean Diddy Combs watched and pleasured himself. Now, Danny Phillip, who said he was running a male stripper review during the time in question, testified that he was paid a few $1,000s to have S with Ventura while Combs watched at Manhattan's Gramercy Hotel in 2012. Phillip said that the Combs wore a robe, a baseball cap, and a bandana covering his face, but he recognized him by his voice. Ventura paid him and said she would tip him when I leave. Now, Phillip told the court, we ended up having S, rubbed baby oil on each other for a couple of minutes, and Combs was sitting in a corner, pleasuring himself. Now, afterward, the witness continued, Ventura gave him a couple of thousand more. Now, Phillip, said that he was contacted multiple times over the next year to have similar encounters with Ventura and Combs at other hotels and at their respective homes in New York. He said that Combs recorded him and Ventura having S once or twice, and that sometimes Combs would intervene and have S with Ventura while Phillip was there. Now, in her 2023 lawsuit accusing her ex of assault and physical abuse, Ventura alleged Combs forced her to have S with male individuals of the night. Now, Cassie Ventura had purple eye after being attacked by Sean Diddy Combs, according to a witness. Now, Ventura was scared. Flores said on the stand she was in the corner, hood on, covered up. I couldn't see her face. She was pretty much in the corner on the floor and was a destroyed flower vase. Loves to throw things around, allegedly. Now, when Ventura left the hotel, she had a purple eye, Flores said. Once she was gone, Flores said he and the desk manager went upstairs to remind Combs of hotel rooms. Combs thought the manager was recording him on his phone and grabbed it. Flores continued, and when Combs tried to grab his phone, Flores said he pinned Combs against the wall. We said, we are not recording you, Flores testified, and de-escalated the situation. So it's interesting, right? This man was able to stand his ground against another man, as he knows of and saw what he thought was happening to a female. So interesting, right? So interesting. Prosecutors showed the surveillance footage of the attack in which Combs appears to be hitting, kicking, and dragging Ventura. That was slowed down from what was published by CNN in May 2024. The defense had previously alleged that the clip was sped up, making the altercation look more violent than it was, as if it needed to be sped up or fast forwarded, slow down. It didn't matter. The jury was also shown video that Flores recorded on his cell phone when he responded to a call for a woman in distress on the 6th floor. Now, Flores testified that he did not call police at the time because Ventura wouldn't answer questions about what had happened and told him she just wanted to leave. Now, former hotel security guard says Sean Diddy Combs offered him cash to stay quiet about Cassie's attack. Los Angeles police officer Israel Flores was a security guard at the Intercontinental Hotel when Combs attacked Ventura on March 5th, 2016. In her opening statements, Garagos called surveillance footage of the attack, which was published by CNN in May of 2024, overwhelming evidence of domestic violence, but over infidelity discovered on a cell phone and not over trafficking. Now, Flores testified May 12th that he saw evidence of an altercation on the morning in question, and Combs had offered him a stack of money to look the other way. Under cross-examination, Flores said he 100% interpreted the gesture to be Combs trying to bribe him. Now, defense says Sean Diddy Combs is complicated and the case is not. In her opening statement, defense attorney Tenny Garagos said prosecutors were trying to turn consensual S into S trafficking, but it will not work. Sean Combs is a complicated man, she said, but this is not a complicated case. This case is about Sean Combs' private personal S life, Garagos continued, which has nothing to do with his lawful businesses. Her client was violent, took drugs, and had anger issues, she told the court, and there will be times during this trial when you think he is a jerk. He is mean, but he is not charged with being mean. He is not charged with being a jerk, Garagos said. The evidence is going to show you a very flawed individual, but it will not show you a racketeer, a S trafficker, or somebody transporting for activities of the night. Now, prosecution accuses Sean Diddy Combs of being a kingpin during his trial. Prosecutor Emily Johnson accused Combs of using a sprawling network of employees to carry out illegal acts, like days-long freak-offs, which were detailed in the federal indictment, according to NBC News reporters in the courtroom. He sometimes called himself the king and expected to be treated like one to cater to all his desires, she told the jury. He uses companies to manipulate women, forcing them with male escorts to have S while he watched. He and his inner circle made sure he got everything he wanted. Now, Sean Diddy Combs' kids apparently also showed their support at his trial. As the rap mogul arrived for the day of his trafficking trial, May 12th, his mom, Janice Combs, was present along with 6 of his eldest kids. His and late ex Kim Porter's kids, Quincy Brown, Christian King Combs, Jesse Combs, and Delilah Combs, his and ex Miss Hilton's Hilton's son, Justin Combs, as well as his and ex Sarah Chapman's daughter, Chance Combs, had the chance to greet their dad with a hug before he sat down with his attorneys. And may I also add, as is shared in this sharing as well, if you or someone you know has been assaulted, please contact the National Sexual Assault Hotline at 1-800-656-HOPE. 4673, or go to RAINN.org. I will have that information in the description area below as well. So how you have it, there is more of those additional details, some specifics that did some more clarifications for some of the things that was shared in this last week's testimonies from not only Cassie, but also some of the male escort witnesses, Phillips being one of them. And I did find it to be interesting that Diddy's children were there and present. I don't know how good of an idea that may or may not have been. Clearly, they feel how they feel about their father's, whether he's innocent or not of the situation. But it is their father, and I'm sure they love them. They love him. He loves them. That they love him very much, and want to be there as a support along with his mother as well. And it's funny that I tripped over all of that. There's a lot of conversation about love, but not really seeing a lot of action of it in so many ways, isn't it? Including the name that he chose to adopt right before all of this thing blew up in his face. But that being said, I did find it to be interesting, not only the take of how it must have been for Cassie's family to hear it, but also for his children to hear these things as well. And just seems really, really unfortunate just to be in this circumstance in the first place. There's a lot of information, obviously, in regards to Quincy and, the dichotomy that he deals with having Albie Shore as his father and the late Kim Porter as his mother, and a lot of the details and explicitness of things that we've heard, that she may have endured allegedly as well. There's been a lot of that coming up. So, definitely I could only imagine the kind of place and positioning this puts Quincy in as he was raised, for the most part, I think, by Kim and, Diddy, and he definitely acknowledges Diddy as his father as well. And so that must be a very difficult place to be in and place to be positioned in. Not to mention the younger siblings as well, and some of those relatable elements in that situation. And I wonder what his mom is thinking. I wonder how, what comes to be, the woman that actually gives birth to an individual is accused of all the sort of things that are being said upon here, and all of the many civil lawsuits that are running around as well. How, you get to a point of how we got here, but yet, there's obviously people who know how we got here, right? And so I wonder about those things too. So many questions, so many questions, so many topics of conversation. And of course, all things are alleged, and we just continue to hear the testimonies being provided by the witnesses. And, of course, you can't help but to make your own thoughts and, maybe assumptions about things as well, especially if you're not on the jury. We all have our feelings and thoughts about things that we have heard. We may feel how we felt about what we think about him being Diddy, and Cassie, and all the others as well, even prior to this trial. So it's a lot of tension, for a lot of individuals, so supporters on both sides in different areas. And so it's just one of these things to just continue to watch the unraveling and what is actually presented, and see how things shape up in the end, because at this point, again, all things are alleged, and we'll just have to wait to see how this all shapes up and what the jury actually does. Now, the case is going set to be here for many more weeks to come, so we will see how that goes, right? So with that, I think that will wrap up this part 2 of the week 1. Additional details added to the testimony and different perspectives that was shared from the testimony of this past week. Again, I have dropped the first part a few hours back, so if you hadn't had an opportunity to take some time to take a view of that, I hope that you will, and leave your respectful comments down below and your thoughts about the situation, and even maybe things that you may have known or made aware of that may not have been shared in the video, or that you want to expound on a little bit. And feel free to do that, because I definitely say it's, it's very sensitive. Nature, as you know, and there is many feelings about the situation and has been for quite some time. So I just ask for everyone to be, definitely respectful with each other, as I am so grateful that when you are. And so, yeah, I think with that, I'm going to bid you do for this video. I will be dropping part 3 in another few hours. So definitely make sure you have your all notification bells on so you do not miss part 3. Part 3, we're going to be diving into Aubrey O'Day, Justin Bieber, and also Cassie's husband, Alex Wine, because he has some things to say as well. And I definitely am appreciative of you taking the time to take the watch. I know it is a very difficult watch for a lot of people. It's a lot of triggering information. So I do appreciate you taking the time. And I do hope that I've been able to lay things out for you that has made it easy to digest in some of the information. And again, if you also are new here and you haven't had an opportunity to hit the subscribe button, I hope that you will and become part of the family, as I would so appreciate it. And thank you to all of you that are already part of the family. As you know, I appreciate your continued viewing and listening support. It definitely means the world to me. And with that, I'm going to step out of this video. And I'm going to see you later. Until next time. Bye.